Dude, that's Smylie Kaufman for 61. Wow.
I'm Smylie Kaufman, and this is The Smylie Show.
Smylie, the 2025 major season is over, much to our dismay, but we're not ready to cap it off quite yet. This kind of feels like, to me, and I'd love to hear your input on this as well, this is like the day after Christmas. We're kind of in that week between Christmas and the New Year. New Year's Eve is kind of like the Ryder Cup at Bethpage. We still have that to look forward to a little bit, but we're on the come down from the holiday season. We're getting ready for the bleak months to follow without high leverage golf. But that's okay, because in addition...
I would say, like, the best way to explain it is when you get back to school type of situation after Christmas break, which feels like forever. Like, Christmas felt like ages ago. Yeah. But we're trying to remember what we got for Christmas, and people ask, well, what'd you get? And we're like, I don't really know what I got. And so that's kind of what this episode's all about.
You just nailed it on the head, because, you know, we're going to try to go back and relive all four of the majors this season and trying to compile the highlights and the memories from the 2025 Masters. Feels like, what was the first gift I unwrapped? And I don't even really know what that was. And it's now like stashed at the bottom of my toy drawer because I got so many other things. So we're going to do that. But it's also kind of like, it's a combination between that and the Super Bowl just ended, or whatever season just ended, and it's the way too early, you know, mock draft for next season, or you know, preview picks for who's going to win the Super Bowl next season, because we can already start looking ahead to the 2026 major season, and looking at venues, looking at kind of early outright winner odds. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to relive all that. We're going to start with the help of our friends from Shipsticks, which I feel like it's a wistful send-off. It's like, you know, the trip's over, the golf trip's over. You pack the bag up, you're sending it home. At least you know it's going to get home safely. But it's a season ended.
Who won the thing? How do you figure that out? When's that get announced?
You know, that's a great question.
Now I'm kind of like in on who wins this deal, and hopefully it comes from our show.
I'm a little invested myself. I just actually just fired off an email to our friend Erin at Shipsticks to with all the different kind of promos we did for it. Maybe I'll have to check back with her and say, hey, can we get a little payoff here? Can we get one last send off of who the lucky winner was that's going to Ireland? This is just we're going to send Shipsticks off with just a little, you know, promo code for you to ship your sticks wherever you want to go to play golf as the season wraps up, which you'll have more time to now because you won't be watching major golf. Shipsticks gets you from your front door to four easier than ever. They'll pick up your golf clubs from your home or office and deliver them on time, guaranteed, to your golf destination anywhere in and outside the United States. No more airport headaches, no more lugging heavy bags, just easy, stress-free travel for golfers like you. The supporting benefits include white glove service, complimentary insurance, real-time tracking, door-to-door service, international shipping, and it's for any occasion. Shipsticks is perfect for buddies trips, business trips, even family vacations where managing kids, strollers, and extra luggage can ruin your vacation before it's even begun. That's actually, on that note, I'm going to use Shipsticks when we head out. Well, when I head out to the Walker Cup at Cypress Point. There you go. About a month. So that's just perfect. I do have something to look forward to. You can enjoy 20% off your next shipment by using the promo code Smylie. That's SMYLIE. And we'll put that link, as always, in the podcast and YouTube description. So we kind of teased it right there, Smylie. 2025 majors recap, of course, starts with the Masters tournament. We led into the year. You picked Ludwig Oberg to win this tournament. I picked Scottie Scheffler. The winner, of course, Rory McIlroy. You got a lot of great notes here.
This wasn't our one and done picks. This was just our picks before the season started. Okay. I was about to call you out on using Scotty twice during the year.
No. This was when we were rounding up back in January. We were kind of sketching out the entire major season. Sure. We have to go back and look at those picks, and then we'll do the same thing next year. We look at what we predicted right now in the beginning of the season. But you've done a nice job here. Just kind of laying out the week that was in Augusta. So just take us through it. Let's have a little conversation about the 2025 Masters.
Well, I'm going to start with, first off, gosh, April feels like a long way away. And so it does it's just that excitement, when that first major gets there, it's the buildup that we talk to the entire first part of the season. So I love just the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of Masters week. It is just the anticipation of having somebody you think is going to win. And by the end of Wednesday, you have 25 people that you have on your brain that could win the golf tournament. But besides just, the practice rounds and just how what Augusta is, I have really come to absolutely love and enjoy the Wednesday par 3 contest. And this year we were gifted some incredible content. First off, we had a couple guys go in the booth, Wyndham Clark and Max Homa, kind of mixing it up there with the broadcast. To have those guys be a part of it was fun and made it a little different. And then also you have like all of these players that are now playing, and it's funny because none of them seem to ever finish a hole. So none of them are ever going to win the par 3 contest. But I mean, just the goods we got from Tommy Fleetwood's kid, Frankie Fleetwood. I think the soundbite was maybe next year I'll be able to hit it over the pond in this like cute little Frankie Fleetwood accent. Just try to picture what that sounds like. And like Poppy, Rory's kid making a putt, Shane's daughter making a putt. And then Bennett's kid on the first tee was making noise while Scotty was about to hit his first shot. So that Wednesday par 3 contest kind of comes to mind as something that a lot of people would forget about, but it was really like one of the better par 3 contest days that I think we've had in quite some time.
I love starting there, given what we just talked about this last week at the Open Championship with Scotty talking about the importance of family. I mean, just thinking back to how family centric in a lot of ways that week is, and maybe the season's been. But I remember, the anticipation, the excitement you talk about showing up for the Masters. This is the first year that I actually sat in the press room and for the press building and got to ask questions of players. And I used one of my questions to ask Scotty what sort of merchandise shopping he was doing for Bennett that week. And we, of course, had Bennett scripted in Nike gear for the par 3 contest, which was hilarious. And just how cool that was. And then also on the back end of that week, as Rory's leading up to the tournament that could get him over the line to complete the career Grand Slam, which he eventually does, he talks about hanging out with Poppy after the Saturday round and watching Zootopia. So I just loved, I love the par 3 contest. We saw Poppy, play in that this year, and just the way that kind of this golf and family, in a lot of ways, that was a theme of this major season as well, which we love as dads who are watching our young kids grow up and take to the game of golf. And that's, it's nice to be able to zoom out and have that sort of special connection. And there's nothing in golf the entire year that is as good of a reminder of that as this par 3 tournament. I guess in addition to just watching Bennett Scheffler collect trophies.
Totally.
those are the 2 great reminders of that.
I would say honorable mentions of players that I think over time I'm eventually going to forget about their performance at the Masters this past year. I think honorable mention first is going to go to Justin Rose. I think over time I'm totally going to forget that he was in this playoff. Right now, I honestly have to remind myself every now and then. I was like, who was – like, I know he won the Grand Slam, but who did he beat again? Because like Justin Rose kind of came out of nowhere. He started the Masters with the 65 and was leading the golf tournament, and kind of he hung steady for quite some time during the golf tournament, and then Sunday kind of kicked it back up.
Justin Rose, and this has been a graphic we've seen at a number of different majors, is just this guy, doesn't matter how old he gets, and it's just he has such a veteran guile about him where he shows up to majors and he knows how to shoot a score and he stays in and around it. It feels like every single major. And I think that's an amazing and commendable thing. I mean, it is a bummer when you're the runner up a number of different times. This is not the first time he's been a runner up in the Masters tournament, but yeah, kudos to Justin Rose. I hope that factoid does not get lost in time, as it easily will when you're thinking about the winner being Rory McIlroy.
Totally. And the other honorable mention player too, I'm going to bring up here is actually Patrick Reed. I think I think a lot of people don't remember like that hole out at 17. It was just, kind of thrown in all the chaos that was going on. It's like, oh, and over to 17. And then
Shamar Stewart is having troubles before he even plays a snap. And he's seeing what's happened to the stars of this football team, by the way, right? The Higgins stuff wasn't super smooth. The Hendrickson stuff's not smooth.
But why pay him that big number where you've got Trey Henderson, who's an absolute superstar at edge? You always build a defense. Why haven't the Bengals been back to the Super Bowl in the last 4 years? It's real simple.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Y'all know where I'm going. And yeah, you can call it Nick bias all you want. I'm taking the Knicks to come out of the East. I look at this New York team and think that Mike Brown is an upgrade over Tom Thibodeau. You may disagree. I don't care. I look at the fact of getting Yabusele and Clarkson off the bench is going to make the Knicks more dangerous.
Betting above the rim only on SportsGrid.
Your approach with Marnie and Hampton is if you're going to draft him aggressively and early, you better be patient because it might take half a season before he really takes over this backfield, and it might never happen this year, depending on how Harris performs. Gadsden and Disley so far not fantasy relevant at this time. Again, a more run-heavy offense. Hampton and Najee Harris, very intriguing, but the ADP, I think, on both of them is slightly off.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Eric Skubal, another incredible performance. I mean, almost going 7-8 innings again, striking out a ton. I mean, I kind of felt like the Tigers really wanted that win.
There's a bit of narrative to it that people like to buy into, or, kind of, I don't want to say push a narrative, but the fact that he's doing what he did last year, but better, and is now in a spot to repeat, like, there's something to be said.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I think we talked about this during our journal or the recap right after the Masters, which is how cool it is to not have phones at Augusta National, and all of the patrons behind the 18th green just watching the scoreboard and just trying to figure out what's going on in the tournament, trying to figure out what a roar is. But I can promise you this, a hole-out eagle is going to be a Rory McIlroy yell and scream and shout and roar. So that probably was the most confusing thing for every patron on that 18th hole, being like, that wasn't what we expected to see Patrick Reed be the hole out at 17. They probably thought that was a Rory roar. So that would be an honorable mention, is that P. Reed had, I think, third. He finished third. Is that right?
Yeah,
right.
I'll pull the leaderboard up right here. I have it linked. I believe that was, it's right. It's a solo third. He finished at 9 under. And it's funny looking back at this leaderboard because we just go through it. Rory McIlroy, Justin Rose finished at 11 under in the playoff. Patrick Reed third and 9 under, and then Scotty Scheffler solo fourth at 8 under, and we just, that's another one we just forget. Oh yeah, he was right there again there. Not a shocker for a guy who's won 2 green jackets, but just he's inevitable. And I almost forget the story of his week in some ways because we were so Rory centric. But it was then Sung J M tied for 5th alongside Bryson DeChambeau, Ludwig Oberg at solo 7th, Xander Schauffele and Zach Johnson both tied for 8th. It was a solid leaderboard.
Yeah, really nothing on those guys. The only other alternative storylines that I'll kind of mention here is, I think if the Ballester kid, the USAM player, turns out to be something on Live or down the road, and his first time that he comes back to Augusta, I think we'll bring up, wasn't that the guy that pissed in Rays Creek?
Dude, not only did he piss in Rays Creek, but when asked about pissing in Rays Creek, said, "Yeah, I would have done it again." I mean, what are we doing here? I really don't know. I guess if he qualifies via, any other metric, whether it's live standings or, he plays well at other events and makes his way to the top 50 in the world rankings. I don't know that they bar him. I don't know that we're at a Wyndham Clark Oakmont situation yet, but I mean, he's going to be persona non grata around there. That's I wouldn't if you're an amateur out there, you're listening to this podcast, you're looking at the way you're going to play your way into the Master Tournament. Find an outhouse. They're not hard to find.
He passed one. That's the problem on the same hole.
He'd forgotten. That was the explanation. I forgot there was one on 13T, and then I just had to go.
Well, I mean, you gotta go. Is he gonna go piss dogs? I don't know. Probably not.
Honestly, I would have considered piss dogs.
Would you?
I forget what he was wearing. Well, actually, no, I remember vividly what he was wearing. He was wearing one of those upside down lettering hats that many
that was
don't
a tough
love.
start.
Tough scene there, but I'm conjuring up images now in my head, and I think he wore like black pants for most of the week, which are great for piss dogs.
Sure.
Just let it rip. No one's the wiser. You wouldn't want to do that in white pants or even light colored pants, but black, who's gonna know?
Okay, notice for next time.
I don't know if he's a fireballs guy. I mean, we see some of the fits Sergio has. It just the yellow bleeds right into the whole color scheme. No one's the wiser. So, Bahister,
So
Race Creek,
was
that
the
was
other
it.
one.
And then you had Nick Dunlap on here, which I thought was,
That's
cool
the other
story.
one. I think that people will kind of always refer back to with his career. I think it's kind of going to be his low point in his career. You would imagine, like when you shoot, was it 90? You shoot 90?
Yeah.
I tell you what, that's tough on the grand world stage of the Masters, and especially for a player that we all know how good he is. I mean, I watched the kid play since he was a kid, so it's I hated to see it, but I also know that it's never going to stop him from getting to where he's eventually going to get to.
Well, he goes 90-71, and the extra context of that story was he goes and buys or has his agent go buy a bag of balls, and he's staying at some house in the area just near the woods, and just rips balls into the woods that night to kind of let it all out.
That's how he is.
It's amazing.
He's just so dedicated to his craft, and I know he's going to get through whatever it is. It started kind of around that time with the stuff off the tee. Once he gets that cleaned up, the rest of the game's so good. So that would probably be something that I think we'll just kind of hang on to in our heads of, when next time Nick Dunlap wins, we can refer back to that Thursday round at Augusta National.
Well, now I think, the crazy thing about that is you think of all the different ways you can be in the spotlight, with a part of your game at a professional level malfunctioning. And the one that feels the most glaring and obvious is putting. We've talked about that with Scotty and others the last couple of years, but really I can't think of anything scarier as a pro golfer than not being able to know where it's going off the tee. Like that is a much more severe situation than not being able to get in the hole, right? I mean, because you're just, every single hole you're playing from behind.
Do you want to talk to a guy that knows? Because do you want to?
It's supposed to be a tee up for you.
Okay. I didn't know.
A tee up. Yeah.
I can provide a little insight here if you'd like me to, or you can just ponder. Either or.
I mean, I'd say. Well, I've seen it. I've also seen what happens after it, and that part's the best part of it. I've seen some amazing escape shots.
It's fun for YouTube. It's not fun for making a living.
That's why we're in the YouTube game now, which is a great place to be. I think you have on here like some notes about Rory, which I loved. Like just people forget Rory started out Saturday with 6 straight threes.
I forgot. Didn't you forget?
I was sitting in the press building, which is like, by the way, if we're talking about things we love, now that we're big J journalists, we're emerging on the golf scene as big J journalists, like that press building is just unbelievable, second to none. It's like, stadium seating back to front with this beautiful view of the range, and the murmurs, like just the outright gasps as we're watching every new score fall on his card as he's making threes that was a pretty electric day.
6 straight threes. So that would all right. So that would mean he's 5 under through 6. Is that right?
Yeah.
What a start.
Yeah. Unbelievable. What a start. And then had trouble playing, let's see, 4 doubles that week, 2 on the first day.
Yes, because he was 4 under and then got to 15 and chipped it in the water from behind the green. And then on 17, got out of position, ended up actually hit it over the he ended up having like a 30-footer for par to a back left pin, blew it by, and then missed the comebacker putt.
And was it the double on Sunday was 13, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, double on 13, and then like maybe the greatest 7-iron of all time on 15.
it was rich that you're talking about the fact that you don't know what the point of going out there and playing golf and winning golf tournaments when you've got guys who are pining, living in their cars, trying to make a cut, playing the DP tour, desperate just to be in an event, let alone have the ability to talk about winning an event and being like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Fulfill me. I'm not fulfilled as a golfer.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
Y'all know where I'm going. And yeah, you can call it Nick bias all you want. I'm taking the Knicks to come out of the East. I look at this New York team and think that Mike Brown is an upgrade over Tom Thibodeau. You may disagree. I don't care. I look at the fact of getting Yabusele and Clarkson off the bench is going to make the Knicks more dangerous.
Betting above the rim only on SportsGrid.
So Ramondu's already lost a ton of weight. That's great. He needs to stop fumbling the football. Trayvon Henderson, I think, is that playmaker you need. Then you got Stephon Diggs, Kyle Williams. We kind of talked about those guys. Those are the two investable wide receivers. Hunter Henry, I think in a deeper league, is probably your tight end 13 or 14. He's right on the fringe. But I think a good situation here for the New England Patriots.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
This is interesting. Minus 116s, minus 120s in the marketplace. We're seeing now minus 140s across the board and 6.5s on the total.
He's not a big strikeout pitcher. His metrics look terrible, but he somehow seemingly get 5 innings, 6 innings, only 1 earned run. It's because he's a super ground ball pitcher, induces that soft and medium contact. He can essentially sap the power away from the Dodgers.
Pro baseball today, only on SportsGrid.
One of the most memorable rounds I've ever walked to watch was going out there and walking the front with Jackson and Brian. And the way we kind of navigated these massive crowds following Rory and Bryson around that final group was getting on the left side of 7 about halfway up that hill. So that recovery shot, he kind of cut around the trees back into that green on 7, went right over our heads. One of the coolest shots I've ever seen.
I mean, just think about, that shot on the 7th hole, and then you go all the way until, he's just playing. Yeah. Gosh, he's playing good golf. And then that stuff happens at 13. And then the shots he hits down at like 15, of course, is going to be an all-time heroic shot. That's 7-iron. But then even the pin they used at 16, I think we'll forget about because we're so used to the Sunday hole location at 16 being down to the left. Mm-hmm. But this year it was on top, celebrating, I believe, 50-year anniversary, or no, it can't be 50-year anniversary of Jack Nicklaus. When that can't be right. It was
of 86 or what do you?
Yeah, it was like 86 is what they were celebrating, the putt that he made up the hill. Okay. And they used that whole location to celebrate that. Maybe it can't be 20. No, it would have been 25 years. Somewhere the math
pod, yeah.
But the bottom of the cup had something too, I think, if I recall. No, that was the players that had the better than most thing on the cup. Anyways, but I think we'll forget about the iron shot that he hit into the 16th, which was really, really good. He didn't make birdie, but it was a fantastic shot, a shot in which he couldn't hit prior years. Surely, of course, Rory McIlroy can hit whatever shot he wants. I'm just saying, under pressure in that type of moment, probably would have struggled with it in other years. And then 17, of course, that 8-iron, and then 18 in the playoff, all of that.
Well, I just went back to look at his card, and I'd already forgotten that we were there on 1, getting ready for the showdown.
Was it a bogey or a double?
Doubles 1. And
That's right.
And we were thinking at that point Bryson fell off the pace pretty quickly, but we thought it was going to be a Rory Bryson duel. And just watching him kind of make a mess of that first hole. But yeah, birdie on 17, and then to miss the putt he misses on 18, and then have something similar in the playoff.
Well, remember, he's in the middle of the fairway and then hits it into the right bunker with a sand wedge or gap wedge.
but still has like a makeable, not a gimme for 4, but he has like,
a 4 or 5 footer.
It's a 4 or 5 footer, and then he has something similar in the playoff and makes it, and just to the release there was
hitting. He had like the same number on 18, but there's 2 drives he hit. I mean, the amount of, I don't think I've ever seen somebody have like 120 yards at 18, at least not on back-to-back drives.
Yeah, to take on that angle and the way that he did back to back, just so nervy. You know, if you lose that a little bit, it's just you could throw the golf tournament away. And yeah. And that was, I mean, this is why I love we're doing this exercise, because as we're talking about it, and obviously it wasn't at the Open, but being there for those 3 majors, you're just putting yourself back in those moments and remembering how thrilling it was to watch him go to work in the way that he did. Incredible week. The last one that on here that I think is worth kind of recapping is just, you really observed the way the course, maybe not played dramatically different, but the Hurricane Helene, you know, just certain trees that were gone.
Totally.
Now that you're away from it from a few months, I mean, do you think Augusta National does anything to kind of recreate certain shots, or do you think you like the way it laid out?
Oh, it was fine. It was much more of just when you got down to Amen Corner and just how you could see Augusta Country Club over the years, that it'll eventually get back to probably what it used to look like. Yeah. I feel like vegetation always has a way of kind of getting back to where it was.
That's said with agronomic authority. Vegetation.
Well, it just does.
Life,
I don't understand it.
Finds
but
a way.
Does.
It's very Jurassic Park of you. I think that's, nice to go along here on the Masters. I'm not going to short other majors, but the PGA. Let's head to the PGA next. Quail Hollow. Prior to the season, you picked Rory there, which ended up being my one and done pick that week. I picked Justin Thomas. Scotty Scheffler, of course, wins.
That was my one and done pick.
That was your one and done pick. So you did cash that week. I'd love to hear about your favorite shots. And it was just a weird week of storylines, but I'll always remember PGA America was great to kind of set us up right there on the left side of 18. And our last on-site journal that week, you and Jackson and I standing in that sort of hospitality area and watching him with the wind swirling. We're looking at all these different flags behind the 18 grandstand going in different directions, and just hits a perfect approach and then makes maybe like a 8 or 10 footer for birdie on Saturday. And it just really felt like he's in command. He's going to go out and win this major here. What do you kind of run through your set of notes for that week in Charlotte?
Well, I would say just from a golf tournament standpoint of like what happened, if you just need a memory refresher, I think the one shot that comes into my head, the one that I think could have changed the outcome of the entire golf tournament.
My mind, I was able to think and process. And if I let him get back up, he's going to get back up. I was like, let me finish this right now. And I caught him with that left hook, and then I caught him again with that right hook just to make sure the job was done, because I was calculating his hands wasn't touching the ground and his knees weren't touching the ground, but I know he was still going down. To make sure he was to get back up, I had to let those last 2 off, man.
Combat Sports Report. Only on SportsGrid.
He's just only 2,300 points behind. So even if he does win at Memphis, he's still going to be behind Scotty Scheffler in the points by 300. So why? I mean, I want Scotty Scheffler to show up in Memphis, but does he need to? If Rory's not showing up and the third place guy, even if he wins, isn't going to pass him?
The Smylie Show, only on SportsGrid.
What do you make of the season that Barkley had last year as he piled on the yards to get over 2,000, and what can that look like this year?
His year could have been much better with different circumstances here. So he was great. I assume he'll be great again. You want to take Jahmyr Gibbs? I don't have an issue with it, but, Barkley, you're going to lose the tush push.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Big Fish is the best player in the WNBA. She is running away with the MVP award. Why is that? Caitlin Clark, injured. Asia Wilson, not playing at Asia Wilson level, but it's more about the fact about what's around her has been an issue. So to me, Fish is almost like the MVP because everyone else has gone down in some way, shape, or form.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.